Hello and a very warm welcome to everybody watching online, whether you're watching on LinkedIn Live or through our website. I'm Nick and I'm the founder of the Digital Tourism Think Tank, and I'm super pleased that you've decided to join us today. It's a little bit of a different topic that we're going to be covering. We're going to be talking about how to win awards. Now, obviously, I can't tell you how to win awards, but I'm very pleased that we have Catherine Chambers, who is digital manager at Fáilte Ireland, who's joining us. And I'm hoping that she can reveal all the secrets to winning awards. I've been on the jury of many different awards programs, and I can tell you it's hard work to go through extensive and brilliant submissions. But sometimes it's interesting to take a look at it from the other side. I obviously have a good idea about what makes a brilliant award, but Catherine has a really good idea about actually how they managed to succeed in getting the recognition for the brilliant work that they do at Fáilte Ireland. So, Catherine, great to have you with us. And it's nice to see you again. I hear you have already booked your ticket for Future Destination Brand, where this year's X.Awards will be held. So I'm very pleased to hear that. But this is going to be a great conversation, right?
I hope so. So yes, Nick, you got the plug in early. Yes, I have bought my tickets for FDB in Barcelona and the X.Awards, and I've been told to encourage everybody to come to it. So I've now done your plug for you as well.
Thank you. We had to do a little bit of a plug. This is X.Awards branded. So I will go through the most important information before we jump into that conversation, and you're going to tell all, hopefully, about how to create a winning submission. So the X.Awards this year, we have a deadline of 31st of October for you to get your submissions in. So make sure you do that. And we have some really exciting categories. We have just a small number of categories, so the competition is really high. This means also if you're successful in being shortlisted as a runner-up or even a winner, this is a really, really huge credit for the work you're doing. So this year we have the Transformation Award, the Partnership Award, Digital Impact Award, Purposeful Brand Award, Startup Innovation, and the People's Choice. This is where your public can vote for the awards and decide for themselves who should win the People's Choice Awards. So that's a little bit of a glimpse at the X.Awards. We'll have the ceremony on the 3rd of December in Barcelona alongside FDB. So really excited about that. So before we jump in, Catherine, for those of our audience who do not know you, which I don't think is many, tell us a little bit about what your responsibility is and what your role is at Fáilte Ireland.
So yes, so I am our B2C digital marketing manager in Fáilte Ireland, and basically my remit is all consumer communications, organic, for visitors. We call our people visitors rather than consumers. So when you hear me flip-flop, just do forgive that language. Over the last 5 years, we've undertaken a huge digital transformation project, and we've rebuilt our 2 websites, DiscoverIreland.ie and visitdublin.com, as well as maintaining and changing strategy on our social channels, and the biggest impact thing we have done this year is our email transformation. So we've totally changed how we approach email, and we've introduced personalization onto our websites as well. So the transformation continues. It doesn't start and stop. It's continuing. But those are the 2 ticket items that I know you haven't heard about this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sort of excited to hear about the email transformation. I think it's a hard one, right? It's hard to get across the excitement of really mastering kind of that personalization and segmentation approach when it comes to email. But it's just so important that we work on the back end of our tech stack and all of our kind of digital assets to make sure that we get the results that we want from them. So I'm curious. I'm hoping that we're going to see a submission on that. I'll be very curious to see what some of the results are. So let's jump in, and let's start out by first of all discussing why awards matter. I have to say, here at the DTTT, we ourselves never put ourselves forward for any kind of awards. So it's kind of ironic that we run our own X.Awards, and we see a lot of awards across the industry. And it took us a number of years to actually decide that there was a real opportunity and desire to create a space for recognition. And then I think when we ran the first awards, which was now, I think, 3 or 4 years ago, we saw that the appreciation that those winners had for the fact that we had been able to recognize them was just enormous, and they really really meant a lot for them. It's like very emotional scenes. So I think this actually helped us here at the DTTT realize that somehow giving that recognition to a team, to a project, and to what can sometimes be years of work, really means quite a lot, other than the numbers and all of the other recognition that you've been yourselves reporting about. But what would you say is the real value of recognition for you guys at Fáilte Ireland?
Well, I suppose the awards are actually the cherry on the top of huge projects, as you just mentioned. You know, our digital transformation project was 2 years in discovery before we started definition and then delivery. So, you know, it is that piece, as you say, it's a long-term projects where you're very clear about what it is you want to achieve, the vision that you want to achieve for the project. And then as you go through it and the project is ended, you look back at your vision and you go, have we delivered? And when you have, you're sort of going, that's amazing. And then obviously you're so proud of that, then you're sort of going, we will apply then for various awards for what we've delivered. So I know for the digital transformation project we were on, we had already key tenants that we said, we want this to be award winning for X. We want this to be award winning for Y, not necessarily just within the tourism sphere, but in digital in general. So, you know, we're sort of looking at our websites and we're entering awards that are for websites. They're not for tourism websites, but they are for website development. So it's looking at what do we want to be seen for and known for. And the awards then, it gives you that, so justification and verification of what you have delivered is world class, and that's what we were setting out to do.
So it's really something that helps kind of create that finale at the end of a huge amount of work. Once you've been able to really look back and see the achievement, where you can really share this then with others to say, well, look at what we achieved. We set out with this goal, and hopefully we even exceeded our expectations there. And so I guess it's really about creating also a sense of pride, and I guess it's really motivating within the team to be able to get that recognition and celebrate that. Tell us a bit about some of the projects that you've been successful with in winning awards.
Quite a lot. So in the last 4 years, we've won 34 awards, some domestic and some international. We've also won 3 e-government awards, which would be ones we're very proud of, because that's where we are in competition. Let's not call it competition, but they're awards which are specifically for government agencies. So for us, that's really, really important as well. Ones we'd be very proud of is obviously our 2 websites, Discover Ireland and Visit Dublin, both won Best Awards of the Year in numerous award ceremonies, and also both have won awards for accessibility and inclusivity. So again, that's really important for us as an organisation, that people can anybody can use our sites, and essentially, yeah, good UX allows you get to that point of accessibility. So again, it's a tick marker for us of we've built this right and people are using it. I suppose we started on the awards circuit more on the website development. And then in the last year and a bit, we've very much been focusing then on our social activity and on our content that we've been pushing out. So omni-channel content. And one we're really, really proud of is our Car-Free Carefree content, which essentially, we saw a gap in the market. We saw that people didn't necessarily want to drive for a break, and the younger cohort, so people under 30, don't necessarily have a car, so they saw traveling around Ireland as a barrier. And there was, like, you know, anecdotally people go, oh, I wouldn't be able to get there because I don't have a car, I need, you know, transport wouldn't bring me there. So we set out to create a series of videos to show people how they can actually do a short break in lots of different destinations around the country, and some of them quite, you know, people in their minds would say they're really, really hard to get to. But in actual fact, we dispelled all those myths. And what we did to ensure that the project worked particularly well is we road tested it. So it wasn't just the tourist board telling you, oh, go do this, this is great. We actually road tested every itinerary before we put it together to make sure you could actually do it. And I think it was sort of the due diligence within that and the fun people could see that they could have that has really, really taken off. And collectively, we now have 14 different episodes, and we're nearly, I think, at this stage, up to 2 million views of the suite of videos. So we're super proud of that, and that has won a number of awards in the last 18 months.
Wow, that is great, and I think it's really great to see with a project like that the value that you've created and then been recognized for is kind of maybe trifold. So it seems, on the one hand, there's a strategic and a social value. You mentioned there's the technical side and also the value side. So this is really touching on accessibility and inclusion, not just in terms of web accessibility, but in terms of what these campaigns set out to do, which is inform and show people different ways to experience Ireland in ways that they perhaps assume you can't or assume it's very difficult. And then on the other side, you've got this technical recognition for example, DiscoverIreland.ie and how that's really kind of a benchmark for the whole industry. I guess one of the things that's really nice and interesting about what you've shared is that we work a lot within tourism, so everybody in our community is a destination. They understand the trends. It's ridiculously competitive between the leading destinations, how they bring their brand to life, how they create like a really effective digital presence. But in many of these contexts, you're up against global brands and with considerably bigger budgets than tourism. So tell us a little bit about kind of how that is when you find the work of Fáilte Ireland up against an FMCG brand, and that must put things into a completely different environment for you and the team.
Yeah, they're just competitors. We don't know. So when we're putting in for a competition, we can look at who's entered on previous years or whatever. But it's about what we've delivered. So, if we've delivered on the vision that we had, and we're sort of saying, yes, we believe this is best in class, it doesn't matter who your competition is, because you're putting in and sort of looking at what you've done and saying, yes, I can stack up with that. So, an FMCG has a very different output required to what we would have. So, we're very, very clear in the get-go of what we want to achieve. They're very clear equally of what they want to achieve. A lot of the awards as well would have different categories. So, it's rare that you would come up face to face with an FMCG. There's categories for best in travel. There's also various categories within social media. There isn't a category that is only best in travel. It is best in social media, or there's categories for best native content. Again, you're up against a plethora of different businesses globally, but actually, again, it comes back to what were you looking to achieve? What did you achieve, and what were the results of that? So it sort of, yes, we're competing with others, but actually we're all competing based on what we wanted to achieve. And it comes down to storytelling, I think.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's really I think that really kind of frames it nicely, that there's this value in just focusing on what you've set out to do and not being too concerned about who else is in the running for that. So yeah, really interesting to hear that. So what would you say are some of the tips then for writing a perfect submission? And I'm very conscious that in 2025, we're going to see AI drafted submissions from probably nearly everybody. So this makes potentially the submissions stronger and stronger, but potentially the ability to kind of, cut through that even more difficult. So what's your take on that?
Well, firstly, on the AI, there will be AI enhanced, but not necessarily AI written, because you know yourself, you can put in stuff into Copilot or ChatGPT and you get the exact same out. If you put in something, 3 or 4 of us will get the exact same response for you. So I really don't think that that's what you're looking for. But the tips that we would have, we're lucky because we're in tourism. So we're storytellers. We want people to come to Ireland. Well, ours are domestic visitors, is to take their short break in Ireland. So it's all about that storytelling. It doesn't matter where the story is being told. So, we've been telling the story of Car-Free Carefree and getting people to take those breaks. Equally, if we're writing a submission, it has to be a story. There has to be a start, middle, and end, and it has to have the details for you. So, when we're looking at telling a story, keep the narrative simple. Be very clear on what the challenges were, the insight that you're operating from, because sometimes it's not a challenge, but it's an insight. And especially when you're on social channels, it could be just an insight that you're going, oh, look at this. We should get on that bandwagon with everybody else. The idea that you crafted, the execution, and then the impact. You should never, ever have a project that doesn't have some form of KPI, key performance indicator, or as I call them, a KRA, which is a key results area, because some of the stuff that we're doing is not done already. So, when you're pushing the boundaries of doing new stuff, you make sure that you have something you can measure against. So that's number 1. There's 5 actually.
Well, maybe just to pick up on that before we jump into the other
Yes.
4. I think that the numbers thing is really key, because we often see submissions which are absolutely dense with KPIs, and sometimes questionable KPIs. So I think you've kind of looking at the results is as important as looking at all the other KPIs. What did you set out to achieve, and can you honestly look back on that and see and measure if you've achieved that? So yeah, really, really good. And then the storytelling. I mean, this definitely is where, of course, we expect everybody to use AI, but it has to reflect your ambition. And I guess this is different to just writing. So what is the ambition, and what were some of the things that stood out, and how did they really kind of shape the decisions in the process? Yeah, that seems very, very sound. So yeah, carry on with your other 4.
Here we go. Number 2 is very much show the evidence. So again, talking about the KPIs and whatever, but actually show the evidence. What the stage looked like before and what it looked like after. So, that you can apply that to websites, to social, to email marketing, to everything. They don't have to be big figures. They don't have to be exciting things, but what was before and what was after. What's really nice for specifically competition entries, but also actually when you're reporting to senior management, which is again another story that we're telling, is quotes and testimonials from people that have enjoyed or been part of the project. Car-Free Carefree again would be a really good example of testimonials we got back from businesses that have said, we've done really well as a result of this. Another project that we've done is walking, hiking, where anecdotally we're hearing there's more people out walking and hiking. So again, it's those quotes and testimonials from people. Then it's sort of looking at being clear about the reach and the amplification. So a lot of the work that we do internally is actually organic. We put minimal paid behind it because my colleagues in the media and advertising team do the sort of the main campaigns. We put minimal paid just to give some of the projects a little boost as they go live, but it's that amplification and how it can go. So Car-Free Carefree again is one of those that just organically has spread, and then you have people commenting on it. And I remember one of the first episodes we had out, somebody said, oh, that's great, but I bet you can't get up to this other location in Ireland. I will keep that secret for now. And we actually already had the next episode in the can, and it was that exact location. So we were then able to go back to this person and name check them, going, hey, yeah, you thought it couldn't be done, we've done it. So there is that type of anecdotes within an entry, make the entry more readable, more sort of tangible again, that you can sort of go, actually, you have shifted the dial, or you've done something that people are really, really interested in. So I suppose that's show the evidence, which is number 2. Number 3, Nick, you will love, because it's very much design the entry as carefully as the work that you have put out. So you're competition entry is sort of the showcase of the work that you have done. So take time to write those entries and ensure that they actually do justice to the work that you've put out. I know from over the years, we used to put in entries and we'd go, oh, didn't get anything from that. So over time you learn. Make sure that you put the time into it. If you can't put the time into it, don't put the submission in. And I think that's really important. Be clear as well in the writing and the copy that you're putting in, so that you, again, being confident of what it is that the project set out to do and what you've actually achieved. And I suppose the crux of this is a great idea, poorly presented, rarely wins an award. And I think that's really, really important. So if you're going to do an entry, make sure it is to the best of your ability. A lot of awards submissions are sort of a block of text that you have to put in, and then there's often, if you want to put in backup documentation or whatever. So again, this is your chance and your opportunity, and here I'm giving away my secrets, is to create a PDF or a video that you can actually upload. So, as judges, it's really hard to read 50, 60 submissions, and they're in these text boxes on a computer screen, very hard to actually understand. So use the opportunity to put a document up that can showcase, that has got visuals. If you have a video, on a PDF, you're not going to have the video, but put a QR code there that the judges can take it, go on the QR code and then go watch the video. So it brings the project to life. Because I think it's really important. We put an awful lot of effort into the work that we're all delivering, but then the submission is this form stack type document.
Yeah.
That actually isn't terribly exciting. And I'm not pointing fingers at you, Nick. You're not the only ones that have that style. But the opportunity is there to put in a PDF. It's not heavy, but actually it gives you all the visuals that you want.
It is very difficult because, of course, you have to create structure so that everybody can be evaluated on the same conditions and the same questions. But you also need to get a sense of the creativity and the strategic thinking. So I think it's a really good suggestion to think really carefully about what the supporting material is and to maybe design something specifically to enhance whatever is written there. It's true that with awards, you often, as a member of the jury or the judge, you often have a really hard time digesting what is sometimes a very large quantity as well. And so reading very, very dense pieces of text can just become completely overwhelming. And it doesn't necessarily add the value. So I think it's about getting that balance between detail, which is definitely important, and being precise and very straight to the point, but then also leading people to, or leading the judges to be able to look at that content and evaluate it for themselves as well, because there is, with anything creative, there's a strong element of subjectivity as well.
Exactly. And that sort of brings me to number 4. Sorry, guys. So number 4 is align with the criteria for the award. So read those exam questions really, really carefully, and then look to answer those questions as succinctly as possible with as much detail, but make sure that you align. So, oftentimes I've seen people looking to enter awards for a certain category, but then when they start looking into it and having spent some time doing it, they sort of go, actually, I don't have all the answers for this criteria. And it takes time to write the awards. As it takes time to read them, it takes a lot of time to write them. So again, make sure that if you are entering an award, that the criteria that you're entering is what you want to enter. Because sometimes you might just sort of say, actually, this isn't for me now, but it can be in a year's time when I have a little bit more data or something like that. So again, it's very important to just read the criteria and answer the exam questions when you're going through. So as you're going through, there's different questions. So you may have prepared a big, huge, long piece of content that you go, yeah, this is going to answer this. But actually, when you start looking at the questions that are actually being answered, they don't, you haven't reflected them necessarily in your response. So make sure you respond to the actual question. And so that was number 4.
That's a great point. And to help with that, we published the questions on the FAQ part of our site, as we have seen many people have said, I'm halfway through. Actually, can I see all of the questions? So yeah, go in with your eyes open and fully prepared. And I think this would apply to any awards, not only ours, to make sure you've developed all of the answers. And then when you're ready, start to upload them or to copy them over. Yeah, that's definitely, you need to be able to step back as well and read the whole thing as a single entry.
Exactly. And I suppose number 5 is, it's great to win the awards, but you don't always win. And, sometimes you walk away going like, I didn't win. But actually what's really important is you ask for feedback from the judges as to why you didn't win. Because apart from learnings then for your own projects, it also helps you hone an award entry, because if you have a really, really good project, you will want to enter that for various different awards in various different guises. You've global awards, you've domestic awards. So, if you have a project you're really proud of, ask for feedback on the entry. You're never going to get it right first time round, or perhaps you do, but if you haven't won, always go back and ask, because there's always some really good tips and hints from what comes back from the judges. You know yourself, Nick, you have little sort of notes that you take, and it's very, very helpful then as you're sort of rolling into the next phase.
Yeah, I think that there's some great suggestions there. When it comes to giving the feedback, I agree. This is something you should definitely ask for. Oh, my camera may have gone a bit. Let me just reset it. There we go. This is definitely something that we would encourage people to ask for. I do believe we even voluntarily give that information, because it does help you to understand what ultimately was in the decision. I think what we see with the X.Awards is the level is so high, and I think it's important to say this on the live stream and not on the nights, because it sounds like a sort of commiseration, speech. But it really, really is true. The level is so high that actually it becomes a really, really difficult decision at the end of the day, especially once you've filtered down to the top 4 or 5. You find yourself really evaluating on very small details. It might be, well, this overall was more strategic, or this just demonstrated better results, or, as you say, it might come down to a really well articulated thinking, which somehow elevates two things which have a very similar level. So these details really matter once you get down to that shortlist. But I think whatever the reason you might not end up winning an award, this is definitely, we would always kind of see it as almost kind of consultative feedback. We might see a big gap in an entry, or in a campaign or something that's been developed, where we think everything was good, but we think they should have thought about this audience. And that's a really, if they take that feedback well, that could be really valuable to actually have that input, because it's also an external perspective on that strategy. So yeah, some really great tips there. Thank you so much for that. Now, as we move towards the end of today's live stream, I can't believe half an hour has already flown by. I'd love to know kind of how you leverage this, because obviously there's that huge motivating factor for the team, hugely rewarding. Are there other benefits then of getting awards? I've been into many people's offices where the shelves are littered with awards, and I think it's always great to see that. But how would you say you guys really leverage the value of winning those awards? What do you do strategically for that?
Well, I suppose as our position as the Tourism Development Authority, we want to show that we're helping industry, but also that what we do is world class. So it is really, really important to be seen, to be winning various awards for the work that we do. All our awards are actually reported up to our authority, so they get a report every meeting of any awards, not just digital, but obviously all other colleagues. We're lucky to be in an organization with lots of different tentacles, and as an organization, we want to be world class. So, our team are big winners, but also have other colleagues who are also winning in their own different sectors of the tourism business. It does what it does. It ensures that the teams stay motivated, because you're winning awards, and it's great to see because everybody's really passionate about what we do. So that the passion shines out when you actually win an award. But it's also great internally. If you've industry into the building and they see the awards, they're sort of going, yeah, you guys know what you're doing. So again, it places you in that position of authority, which we are at the National Tourism Development Authority. So, people will sort of go, yes, okay, I do trust you because actually you know about this stuff. You're cutting edge of what's going on. So it absolutely does help us from that point of view. And obviously at the back end of it, when you're doing your budget pitches every year and you are still showing that you are best in class and to continue to attain that best in class, it helps give us the narrative to be able to pitch for budget on an annual basis.
Yeah, I think that kind of recognition is just so important. We seem to be in a climate where a lot of DMOs are facing all sorts of challenges, financial, budgetary, maybe even going through a restructuring process. And kind of what's really important in these very difficult situations is being able to say, we are making an impact. The work we do is not only essential, but we're amongst the best who do this. And convincing stakeholders, funders, backers, industry that the work you're doing is meaningful, perhaps even for those who don't necessarily understand all the details of what you do. I'm sure there's a lot of people who maybe kind of jar at all of the kind of technical language behind some of your winning entries. But this also kind of works to endorse that and say, well, they are really amongst the best, or they are the best in this sector. So I think that's a really great point. And it's then kind of moves over into your corporates and B2B comms, I guess. So, Catherine, as a kind of closing word on today's discussion, and I know that you guys are very keen to win an X Award this year, so you might not want to give too much away, but what would your kind of closing tip be for others who are contemplating submitting an entry this year? How can they ensure they win another award category that you haven't entered, of course?
So I suppose Fáilte Ireland has won an X Award, but not my team. It was my colleagues in industry digitalization. So I would love for my team to win something. What I would say to people is don't wait till the 29th of October, which is the Wednesday before the submissions. If you're going to do a submission, start thinking about it now. It takes time to do it. If you beat us, great. We will learn something. Like, the thing with the awards is you always learn what somebody else has done. And I think that's really important. So every day is a school day, as they say. So, but don't leave it to the last minute. It takes time. It takes thinking. It takes honing the story to be able to tell the story, and also to allow your project shine for what it really is. If you do it in haste, you're going to miss something and you mightn't do your project justice.
Yeah, that's a great closing tip, and I would definitely echo that. One thing that is worth mentioning is that sometimes people feel they don't have all of the data on that date that they're submitting it. We do allow the submissions to be entered with data to be added closer to the date. So that is one small exception that we can make. So if the award entry is finished and submitted, but you're waiting on a result that comes perhaps in the middle of the next month, obviously not later because it would be after the awards, then we can leave a gap and allow you to update just some key numbers. So this is always a question we get, and we've decided to extend a little bit of flexibility there because we understand that sometimes people just don't submit because they want their campaign results to be incorporated into that, which makes perfect sense. Well, Catherine, thank you so much for sharing those insights. I hope you don't regret it because obviously you've just made it a little bit harder now to compete with anyone who's managed to get all of your tips and ideas. But ultimately, beyond how you craft and how you frame your award entry, it always comes down to the brilliance of the work behind it and how much it stands out to the jury. So, ultimately do great work. And if you're doing great work, make sure you share that and you get that recognition for it. Well, Catherine, it's been great talking to you. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing you in Barcelona on the 3rd and 4th of December for Future Destination Brand, and hopefully celebrating with a glass of bubbly for the X.Awards evening on the 3rd of December. So for anyone watching, don't forget the 31st of October is the date you need to mark in your diary. And obviously you can reach out to the team if you have any questions about that through the chat. Well, Catherine, I'm going to say thank you very much and good luck writing that entry.
Thanks, Nick. And I hope this was useful to some others as well.
Thank you.